With regards to the Excel screen, we've looked at the title bar at the very top, and we've looked at the Quick Access toolbar now residing below the ribbon. So the ribbon, as I briefly mentioned, is this large panel that runs across the top of your screen. The ribbon is divided into various tabs, and in an earlier video we went to the File tab, and you can hit this arrow to go back. But you also have a Home tab, an Insert tab, a Page Layout tab, a Formulas tab, and so on. I'll go back to the Home tab. Each tab is then broken into groups. For example, here with the use of a sort of embossed border, you can see this is the Font group. Over here you have what's called the Alignment group, and over here you have the Numbers group. Each group is comprised of a number of commands. So the Font group, for example, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 commands. And a command is basically a button that you can click, and as this particular screen tip mentions, this particular command button will turn bold on and turn bold off. So let me just do a test. I'll type the word test. If I click this button, it turns the bold on, and if I click it again, it turns the bold off. So those are called command buttons. Now in the bottom right of each group, there's also a wee arrow. You can see one here to the right of clipboard, one to the right of font, one to the right of alignment, and another to the right of number. These are known as dialog box launchers. So this one in particular I'm resting on is called the Font Dialog Box Launcher, and when clicked actually brings up the font dialog box, which gives you all sorts of options with regards to the font. If I was to click Cancel and go to this dialog box launcher, this is the Alignment dialog box launcher. And when I click this option, I get a dialog box that has all the alignment options in that particular group and more. And I'll simply go Cancel. With regards to the ribbons, often we want to declutter the screen as well, particularly if we're working on a phone or on a tablet, something that has quite a small screen. We sometimes want to permanently or temporarily remove the ribbon or hide the ribbon. If I double click Home, I'll effectively collapse the ribbon, and if I double click Home again, I'll bring the ribbon back. There is a shortcut key, it's Control F1, and that will also hide and show the ribbon. And so too will this little V, upside down V, this will also collapse the ribbon, and there's the mention of Control F1. And as it mentions, need a bit more space, then collapse the ribbon. So I'm going to hit the V, and it simply collapses the ribbon. To get the ribbon back, double click one of these tabs or press Control F1. So I'll double click Home to bring the ribbon back. If I double click and only click once, it brings it up temporarily. So once is to hide it and bring it up temporarily, but if I double click, I can double click and hide it semi-permanently and show it semi-permanently. So that's the idea there. So we have the title bar, the ribbon, the quick access toolbar. Now here you have what's known as the formula bar. Now the formula bar will earn its name when we get to the chapter concerning formulas. So at this stage all I'd point out is to the left of the formula bar is the name of the cell you're sitting in. I'm currently sitting in the cell A1, and so it's very much like mass paper, and mass paper is made up of cells, and the cells are basically the intersection of columns and rows. The columns are lettered, the rows are numbered, and so the cell becomes, in this case, D4. I can see the D is sort of grey and the 4 is sort of grey. And as I click around what effectively looks like mass paper, I can see I'm in F5, I'm in C8, and I'm in I15. So cells are referred to by a cell address, which is a combination of the column letter and the row number. Now to have an appreciation for how many columns you've actually got, you can see so many columns. In this case I can see from columns A to S, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you how many columns you've got in total. If I press the Control right arrow on my keyboard, I'll go to the last column. And the last column is not Z and it's not ZZ, it is in fact XFD. And XFD is 16,384 columns. Now if you hold the Control key and press the left arrow, you'll go back to A. If you hold the Control key and press the right arrow, you'll go back to XFD. So Control right and left arrow is the first and last column. So logically, if you can go Control left and right arrow to the first and last column, you should be able to go Control down and Control up to the last and first row. If I press Control down arrow, my last row is 1,048,576 rows. And if I press Control up arrow, then I'm back up in A1. So I can go Control down arrow and up arrow to the first and last row. If I was to quickly work out the number of rows and columns in terms of the number of cells, I would simply say that the number of cells is equal to 16,384 columns times 1,048,576 rows. And so I am basically told here, quite simply, that I have 17,179,869,184 cells in a particular sheet. So that's a lot of cells. It's quite a big sheet. I don't think you're going to run out of room. Now, speaking of sheets, this is the sheet down here, and it's called Sheet 1. Now, we have one sheet by default, but you can change that as well. For example, if I went to File in the ribbon, and I went to Options in the bottom left, where we went earlier to turn off the start screen, I can now say that I want to include this many sheets in a new file. So when creating a new workbook, include this many sheets. I might take it up to 3. You can also change your font and your font size if you wish, by default, whenever you create a new workbook. So I'm just going to choose OK. It doesn't affect the file I'm in, but if I was to create a new workbook, and that could be done simply by clicking this, any new workbooks I create will automatically now have 3 sheets in them. If I hit the X, I can close this workbook, and I'm back to my original new workbook. If I want to add sheets into this workbook just on a need-by-need basis, that's what this plus is for. I can click this plus and I can add sheets as and when I need them. And there's no limit to the number of sheets you can insert into this particular Excel file.